Before completing another lap, the checkered flag will be raised, and this punishing race will have been won for the third time running by a Ford car. And there at last it is. Number 9, the Ford, the GT40, and a really rousing welcome for drivers Belgian Lucien Bianchi and Mexican Pedro Rodriguez, for whom winning at Le Mans is also the fulfillment of an ambition of a lifetime.
To perpetuate their 4 consecutive wins at Le Mans, Ford developed a car that would embody the legend that the Ferrari-beating GT40 was. The Ford GT is more than just a regular supercar. It is a modern version of a champion that will never be forgotten. Although this car is already over 10 years old, it will still impress its driver mightily and reward him with what is truly one of the best driving experiences, while seducing him with its timeless beauty. The Ford GT is a piece of history, and the new model, which is just around the corner, has a lot to live up to.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Gasoline Culture. Today we present you with one of my absolute favorite cars of all time, the 2005 Ford GT. So this car is actually one of the most important cars today, and you may be wondering, like, why the hell should this car be important? It's 11 years old. But this is the car that made Ford actually get back to producing race cars. As you may know if you follow any kind of car content online, which clearly you do because you're watching this video, you will know that Ford has blessed us with the new prototype of the new Ford GT. They literally broke the internet with this car, and everybody's been talking about it, and everybody wants one. And I can see why. The car looks absolutely amazing. They've presented it in a couple different colors. You know, the yellow, the gray, the blue, and the car looks absolutely fantastic. It's going to be running a 3.5 liter turbocharged V6 EcoBoost, which doesn't really suit the Ford heritage, but I'm sure that it's going to be an absolutely amazing car, and I would definitely love to have one. Why is this car important when we're talking about the new Ford GT? Well, because this is the car that Ford decided to produce to commemorate the legendary Ferrari-beating Le Mans winner, Ford GT40. And this is what basically made them come back to the performance car world. You know, Ford around these parts, I mean in Switzerland at least, the Fords that we get here are really just forward-wheel drive, sort of more regular, cheaper, more boring cars. We do get the occasional sort of Mustang GT500, but they're not very popular at all. So we don't get the sort of muscle car Fords that you people out there are more used to. So only 101 of these cars were actually built for Europe, and this is one of them. So this is no import from the USA. This is the very, very limited European spec Ford GT. This car was delivered in Switzerland and actually only has 2,222 miles on it, which I don't really understand, because just driving this thing, I mean, I would beat the shit out of it every day. It is such a joy to drive. And if you know me, then you know that I absolutely love manuals. This is one of the last sort of supercars with a manual transmission. It is absolute bliss to drive this car. The clutch and the manual, you know, they take some getting used to initially, but once you get used to it, it is such a fantastic car to drive. The shifts are really direct, you know exactly what you're doing, and the feeling that you're getting through the transmission and through the steering is sublime. It's definitely a driver's car, which can also be seen at all of the gauges that are facing the driver, which provide you with all the necessary information. And I love to see the blower boost gauge right there going up to 15 psi. So you may be asking yourself, what is this car like to drive? And you're probably thinking, well, it's 11 years old, it's probably not that great. I mean, this car, you can rev match it perfectly. My God, it puts a smile on my face every time. It's got 550 horsepower and 678 Newton meters of torque. If you just think back to those days, I mean, that was a huge amount of horsepower. And clearly it doesn't have anything on the more modern supercars, but I mean, just generally speaking, this car is still properly fast. Holy shit. This thing goes like fucking stink. You know, the suspension is not harsh at all. Of course it's sporty, but it's not like, oh my God, my back hurts after 20 minutes. And I really like the way this feels. It's not uncomfortable by any means. The steering is actually divine for an American car especially. You have a decent amount of response off center. You know, it's very direct and feels very natural. It definitely gives you great feedback, unlike the more modern cars do. And this is one of these cars that really lets you know what it's doing, and there's just a great feedback being given by the car in general, through the seats, through the steering, through the transmission. I mean, once you have the clutch figured out, it's actually fantastic to drive. It's super easy. I really wasn't expecting this from a sort of 2000s era supercar. It's easily one of the most comfortable supercars I've driven. I mean, of course, the SLR McLaren from back in the day with its automatic transmission is even easier to drive, but for really having that supercar reputation, this car is so easy to drive. And many reviews have basically been saying that this car is a great cruiser, and I have to agree. And the power is there from idle, literally. There's absolutely no lag, which is what I love about superchargers. All these turbocharged cars, you know, especially from back in the day, they don't have power down low, whilst this really does pull. I mean, and it's so linear. The way it delivers the power is spectacular. It's very progressive and very easy to modulate as well. So I'm absolutely loving this, and we're just going through some twisties here. The car feels fantastic. It feels much more modern. Like, you really do not feel the age of this car. And then when you quieten it down, when you shift to some higher gears, it basically comes back to being this absolutely unbelievable cruiser, which is so comfortable. So I just want to talk you through the interior of this car, which I think is really fitting and absolutely gorgeous. I love the fact that it's very design oriented. It's very sort of simplistic. We have this magnesium sort of center console here with the beautiful sort of forged aluminum shift knob right here. And the seats I absolutely love. They're actually carbon buckets, which look fantastic, and they have these funny little holes here, and they're very, very comfortable. Really a cruiser, but clearly also a supercar. So one of my only gripes that I have with this car is definitely the visibility. I mean, you're in this cockpit and you can't see out for shit. I mean, the rear window, all you see is that big supercharger just sitting on top of that 5.4 liter V8 with the pulley just spinning away right next to your ear pretty much. I mean, the side windows are really small. The front pillars here are way too big, and the front windscreen is tiny. You don't want to be driving this car in town where you have to look around you, especially if there's many like cyclists and everything around. This is really one of those cars where you take it to the track or to a nice mountain road where you have space and can really focus and sort of enjoy the driving characteristics of this car. Alright guys, so that was our 2005 Ford GT review. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments below what you think about this car. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a lot more coming, a lot of supercars and also some normal cars. So stay tuned.